Tell Me Everything with John Fugelsang on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back. We're at 866-997-4748. This is Progress After Dark. I'm Johnny, giving you the night shift all night long. 866-997-GRID. It's like every radio show I ever listened to growing up. Hey, you know what? We haven't seen this guy in a couple of weeks. And I was worried, Chris, because, I went down to Florida for a couple of days for Easter, my mother-in-law's birthday. Went to this cool church that like is all welcoming of trans people, like has banners outside saying "We say gay." We say, I was gone for a couple of days, and Keith Price came over to the house and took care of my horrible animals. And then I don't know how it went. I came back and Keith had left, and then he didn't come on our show for 2 weeks. So I'm like, oh, my animals are just evil dicks, and this is what happened, and I'm paying the price. We have burned one of our favorite friends forever from the show, because of this evil little Pomeranian dog that my wife's midlife crisis brought into my life. This thing that looks like a Wookiee's testicle, this little biting, yipping, peeing thing has driven Keith away. So imagine my joy when I found out after 2 weeks of avoiding us, he's no longer ghosting us. He is unghosted. Please, people, I'm so excited. I'm gonna do the right intro. Keith Price, teeth nice, brief, concise, with just enough vice. My Christmas wreath, my comedic device. No beef, no grief, no sacrifice. My chief bequeaths precise advice. Keith Price. My aperitif, my pizza slice. My ginger spice, my Susan Rice. My vanilla ice in paradise. He's seen everything on Broadway twice. He knows all the lyrics to Edelweiss. My belief, it'd be so nice if we could all be underpriced. Keith. Welcome back, Comedy Daddy.
You're going to make me cry, Johnny. Why you do that to
Well,
me?
that poem is as insipid as when I drunkenly wrote it a year ago. How are you, Keith? Happy late birthday.
Thank you. I'm another year older and deeper in debt.
There you go.
But I'm here. So you know what I mean? Like, I had to resolve that even though I'm not where I thought I would be at this particular moment in my life, that I am very, very blessed, because throughout this, especially this past year, like I have been buoyed by so many great friends that include you in so many different places in my life that have allowed me to still, even though I'm going through, like having a little health stuff going on, and I'm still working with location, that I'm still here, and I'm still funny, and I'm still, I'm starting to like reconnect with a lot of places that I let disconnect because I was not working on my own personal happiness. And so now I'm in a resolved place where now I feel like I can focus on my act two without feeling so overwhelmed by life.
This
you know what I'm
sounds like
saying?
your whole Tibetan Buddhism transcendental meditation birthday retreat really paid off, Keith. You're like my bodhisattva now. You're so centered and wise. But I agree with you. I think life not turning out the way you wanted it to is no excuse to deny joy.
Exactly. And that's what I have been doing consistently, it seems like, personally, on a personal level, for about a year now, and in my mind feeling it was justified because I was so focused on all these other things. And then I had a conversation with somebody that I was working with, and basically she just was like, do you want to go out and have drinks on your birthday? Because I was undecided about it. And then when I say the very last minute, it was like, I'm going to leave work at 7:30, and I'm going to tell these 5 people that I'm working with, listen, I'm going to go sit at a bar. I'm going to text like 5 or 10 of my friends that I know that are living like right in the area, because it was in Midtown. And I'm like, this is going to be the opportunity to do it. If you can make it, come. If you can't, I'm cool with it, because I'm going to be going home at 9:30. You know what I'm saying? and then 9:30 turned into midnight because one of my friends, my dearest oldest friend, my friend Don, showed up, and I didn't expect to see him because he was giving me I have so many things I'm going to be doing today, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to. So if I don't see you, then it's fine. We'll get together over the weekend. And when I walked into that little bar on 10th Avenue, there was my friend of 30 or 25 years, and it was like,
nice.
this is so cool. And then the new world that I'm starting to recreate with some of these other new individuals and new energies, a lot of them showed up, and it was really just very nice to kind of intersect a couple of pieces in my life together. And then that's when I was like having that moment where it's like, okay, you know what? You're going to figure it out. And then all of a sudden I started writing interesting little pieces were coming to me again. And then, I went to an opening night party last night for summer 1976 with Laura Linney
Oh,
and Jessica Hecht over at the Manhattan Theater Club. And while I was at the after party, I started talking to Charlene Woodard. And I don't
oh,
know who you, if
really?
you,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, I love her. Like I saw her do when I first moved to L.A. She was the first piece of theater I saw. Her show
well,
Neat
the
many years ago.
neat.
I
And
love her.
so, and and again, I'm sitting there geeking out because I'm like, oh my God, she's from the original cast of Ain't Misbehaving. Hold it together. Don't start singing with her. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and and it was interesting because it was like one of these moments where it was like we started having a conversation about writing, and we started having this like, and I'm standing here realizing that I'm talking to someone whose work I've known since the 80s. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
wild. That's wild.
To having a conversation about trying to get my creative juices to pop and flow with this woman who's now she's working on something really fabulous down in DC. And so it was just like, oh wow, okay, well this is where I am right now. And it's like, you
Hmm.
know two nickels to rub together in your pocket, and here you are at the after party. So like, it's like,
I think most
just
people will remember Charlene Woodard plays Jodie Foster's roommate and best friend in The Silence of the Lambs. That's her
that's
biggest, I think,
right.
credit. Yeah.
And if for the folks that are all into their progressive periods of watching shows like Pose, she is the dance teacher from Alvin Ailey that you see in seasons 2 and 3, I believe. Yeah, 2 and 3.
Oh,
That she makes these appearances throughout the thing, and so and then I saw her during that period do. They had an Ain't Misbehaving reunion at 54 Below, at Feinstein's 54 Below, and she was there to come and sing some of her songs, and
nice.
it was just. Uh, anyway, so
Well,
like,
Keith, you are my Zoloft smoothie. You drive my blues away. Just having you with us, and again,
aw,
I'm as happy as I am that you've had this good episode in your life. It wasn't my dog then. It wasn't the horrible dog. It wasn't the cats.
no,
They didn't
no,
they
no,
didn't
no.
traumatize
Mimi
you.
is don't let him tell y'all that Mimi is adorable. I
No,
love the
she's
fact that
not.
she has to eat behind her own closed door because
Yeah,
people bother
well,
her.
the cat.
But
No,
I,
the cats will eat her food. Yeah, the cats ate
yeah,
her. So yeah,
but
she's
she
she's.
will eat theirs if you don't watch her either. She'll
Oh, I
just stick her
know.
head in the bowl.
I
So
know.
it's a,
I
it's a
live in.
dog eat dog world over
It's
there.
it's pet Babylon here. It's just a hellhole. Keith, I also want to say I know I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you've recently gone through a terrible breakup and
Uh-huh.
someone you thought would always be a part of your life who is now left. And I just want to say how I know how much you're going to miss Tucker Carlson. Keith, I thought of you right away. I know how
I
much he meant to
know.
you. Yeah.
It was a very deep relationship that we had, and I was like most people, I was just torn by the sudden disappearance. Like he just up and left.
Yeah.
I saw him on Friday, and then Saturday morning gone, and
He
then
ghosted us all. Ghosted us, Keith. No.
not a phone call, nothing. Can I just say that's the most hilarious thing ever? I'm so glad that he's gone. And I was, and at first, I had that reaction of like, well, they're just going to put somebody else that's going to be in there. They're going to be just as bad as him.
Of
And
course.
but
Yeah.
then I stopped and I was like, but you know what? But he's gone, and everything that he
Mm.
stands for right now, for the next however long before they fill it with some other idiot, we're not going to have to listen to him, see him, except hear about him whining that he doesn't have a job now and that his whole life is going to be a hot mess, and how dare
I don't
his
think he's going
freedom
to
of
whine.
speech.
I think that Fox has terrified him because they announced yesterday they leaked it to Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal that they have a whole opposition research file on Tucker Carlson, like he's a candidate, which means they
Ooh.
own him now. They already released the Wall Street Journal that he called both Trump's attorney and an executive at Fox C word. So I mean, Tucker put out a 2-minute video today where he says absolutely nothing. Chris told me about it. I watched it. He says nothing. He's trying to rally the troops. He's trying to put down Fox, but he won't do it by name because he is a little chicken shit coward. And yeah, I think he's just going to go off and do his own thing, and it'll be subscription based. And he's going to be like Glenn Beck. They shoved him down
Mhm.
our throats, and now he's still out there, but only his own little bubble will be there
Right.
watching.
Well, and again, who's going to feel sorry for him? How much money was he making from Fox to begin with?
Who's going to feel
How much
sorry for
money
him,
does he?
sir? Have you met the racists of social media? They feel very sorry for him. There's a
I was like,
lot of
oh yeah,
broken-hearted people with no hearts.
no hearts, and they don't have his bank account. And
Hmm.
again, it's sort of like if you want to get upset and be mad about him allegedly losing his job, those people that are like kicking up their heels and getting all upset and protesting and getting nuts, I want to ask them, how much money do you have in your bank account right
Yeah.
now that you feel that you need to support this man who, considering that now we know a lot of the backstory, that you were going to
Millionaire at
support this
birth.
man.
Millionaire at birth.
He was a millionaire from birth. So, like, you were going to go out and support this idiot because you think him as a white man has been wronged and therefore he's going to have to be righted. And it's like, do you understand that he made his entire career off of basically lying to all of them and all
His
of you?
college
And
yearbook bio is him praising the man who murdered Harvey Milk. Like, that was
so
him as a young person. It's him now.
now, so you know what? Luckily, at this point now, he's managed to amass a fortune of money on his own from his own merits, and then of course what he's got from daddy and mommy, and he can sit on a hill somewhere and just piss on the country the way he wants
I
to and
know.
has been, and he will not have anything to worry about. So,
Yeah.
bye,
He'll have his
bitch,
own Alex
bye.
Jones. He'll have his own Alex Jones set up in his little studio he
Exactly,
has up there in New England. But Keith,
and
one more
nobody's gonna
question.
care.
I want to get to our listeners, but we have a lot of callers. But I want to just bring one more thing up because I work in the media. This is
Hmm.
the part where I have to ask you about Don Lemon and
Yes, you
pretend,
do.
because I'm in the media, that Don
Mhm.
Lemon's firing is exactly the same as Tucker Carlson's firing.
Because it is. It's very much the same thing.
But did you
Again,
see this? Now do Don Lemon. Now do Don Lemon. Do you know any liberals who are outraged by the firing of Don? I mean, I know Don. I like him. Do you know any liberals who are saying, I'll never watch CNN again because they fired Don Lemon? No, because liberals
mm-mm,
aren't a damn cult.
they're not a cult. And in the end, recognize that sometimes people got to go. And on this side of the fence and on the aisle, this this group of folks are very quick to get rid of folks that are not hitting the moral high ground mark. They're not, towing a good line, and they
Yeah.
have no qualms about letting them go and telling us why we're letting them go. Versus these other idiots that let these people do all these horrible things and they keep them around. So,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I, I feel bad for Don Lemon because ultimately, in the end, like they were kind of pushing this interview that he did recently with some Indian
With
American
Vivek.
candidate,
Yeah.
and how he was pushing back in that interview with that person. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, that's the problem. It's like nobody's pushing back at anybody in these interviews. And when you finally have
Yeah.
someone who's brave enough to do it, and do it before they become the big presidential candidate hopeful. Like, let me call you on your shit right now before you
Yeah.
get in front of another national audience spouting it.
I mean,
And
they were phasing Don out for a while.
and they were
They I mean they
and he's been like, he's that
he's had
employee that they've had a lot of written warnings about
a lot of
upstairs.
written warnings. Yeah, it's true. And he's,
And
look, it takes a lot to get me to defend Nikki Haley, Keith. It takes a lot for me to defend Nikki Haley. But I thought, saying she's past her prime, I'm like, do you know where you work?
yeah,
What are you thinking?
yeah,
So
it's
it
like,
just, and the biggest factor all of all, I think, is I'm sure Don has been at the channel for so long. I've done a show many times.
mhm,
His salary was probably massive, and
of
probably
course,
they're cost cutting all over the place over there. I
exactly,
think Don was a victim of low ratings, and Tucker was a victim of Tucker's inherent douchiness.
exactly, and neither the train shall meet. But
Yeah.
but in the end, it is someone who, in the end, could his tenaciousness as an actual journalist of sorts and interviewer and all that other jazz could still have a lot of influence.
Who,
Like,
Don?
I
Don?
Don Lemon
Yeah.
can still continue to have influence because most people are thinking that he's been wrongly fired. There's women that are
No,
very
most
still
people don't
angry with him.
care. Most people don't care.
That's true. But but the ones who, like, I saw someone today who I didn't suspect would be someone that was like by Don Lemon, but her response was because of that Nikki Haley thing. She's
Yeah,
like, and
that's it.
the sad thing is like that is, to me, he sounded like he was just, had a little too much Chardonnay and he was hanging out with the boys and talking smack. And that smack, that's the kind of smack that you would have heard with a bunch of queens sitting in a room being
Yeah, well,
catty.
you
And
will
he
never
just,
hear me speculate about catty things that gay black men who like to drink might say. I've learned my lesson, and I will not cross that line,
because
sir.
you know how we can be. So, and that's the thing. And that's the thing, like in the end, that kind of comment was probably, like that's like the Chardonnay based, sassy,
So
edible
funny.
out on Fire Island comment with the boys versus in front of a hot
Yeah.
microphone in front of a news camera.
Well, it's
And
also the
and
difference of
that's the
going from
difference.
your own primetime show with your name on it to being one of
Right.
3 people on a morning show. I mean, God only
Right.
knows what he was struggling with. So I'm
You
sure
know,
both. Yeah. I look.
but
You can say
he'll
that.
be fine. He's another one who he will be fine.
I
Like
think
he'll
Don may have fucked up and made mistakes, but he wasn't an evil, lying, racist, homophobe
absolutely. And
dick.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. And that will count way more for over time than Tucker Carlson and the
Yeah.
history that we know him for.
It'll
So
count more with St. Peter too. We have a lot of riffraff who want to say hi. Comedy Daddy, are you ready to take on?
Let's do it.
Let's welcome our evil army of the night. Sela
We're
is
going.
calling from Texas. Sela, good evening and welcome. You're
Oh,
on
my
Progress.
Sela. Hey, girl.
Hey, Keith, my comedy
How you, baby?
Tuesday. Love you. I'm doing great. I got some tornadoes coming at me tonight.
That's
so
what
I'm a
I
little
hear.
jumpy.
Y'all better take care down
It's
there.
nice that Oklahoma can
Oh,
spare some
Lord.
for you. Please be safe.
Oh, I try. But I would just want to say from the get-go, I would vote for Joe Biden, even if he shot Trump on Fifth Avenue.
I would vote for Joe Biden. Like Joe Biden,
Yeah.
if he's up against with an alien popping out of his chest while he plays air
Right.
guitar to Journey, I would vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump.
Yes, definitely.
And the thing is
Um,
that people just
Go ahead,
need
Keith.
to just get over the craziness and realize that right now we are like a third, 2/3 of the way of getting closer to using the vote the way we're supposed to be using it to eke out some of this craziness. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, those folks that are like, I don't like Joe Biden, just suck it one more fucking term. That's all I
They
can
will.
tell you.
I think
Just
Roe.
gotta
I think
suck it
Roe
up.
v. Wade is going to make that suck go down a lot easier, Keith.
I hope so. I hope so.
and that's
But we'll
kind
see.
of, I want to know, John, I know you know a lot of people. Do you happen to have Jack Smith's number? Because I really like to call him. Because
Yeah. Well,
it's true.
what message do you want me to get to Jack Smith for you, Sela?
Well, I want you to tell
We
him
do some bowling
that-
together, and I'll be seeing him soon. We play Among Us together online, so we chat. Go ahead. What can I tell him?
That's great. So, I worked last time I worked polls 2018 when Cruz and Beto were running against each
Keith,
other.
you were working the
Anyway,
polls of the Spearmint Rhino back in 2018, weren't you? Yeah, you were
Yeah.
doing some great
Long
dancing
time
back
ago.
then.
Honey, I was
Okay.
working a lot of polls during those days, honey.
How sweet it is. Go ahead,
I'm
Sela.
just saying, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, like a couple months before the election, the Texas Secretary of State and Abbott got together this group of people who I have the notes somewhere in all my junk, but I got to dig it up. But
Okay.
anyway, they pulled together this group that said they're going to go around the state to every county and they're going to quote check for security breaches on machines.
Yeah,
Total
they're gonna check.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
we already do that anyway locally, and the people that make the machines do too. Anyway, but one little county near me said no bueno, and they kept tabling it at their meetings, at their like county meetings, until after the election. So they didn't get to theirs, and I thought that was so cool because the little county was like, no, you're not touching
Yeah,
our
you're not doing
machines, you
Yeah.
thieves.
Good for them. Good for them.
But
Good for them.
but yeah, Ted Cruz has been in this shit since
Let's
forever.
talk about it. Ted Cruz, Keith. I know how much you love Ted.
Mm. But right before we clicked on, I had to work earlier, and I just got home to see one of those news stories about what's been happening with him. And let me just tell you, couldn't happen to a nicer fucker. Couldn't
I
happen
agree.
to a nicer
Right.
mother.
You're
Like
right.
it's time. It's time. It's time now.
Yes.
Let's see how you're going to wiggle out of all of this. You've
Yes.
managed to get this far. I have been saying for the past year and a half, 2 years, why we did not get what is it, the 14th Amendment, Section 3 on some of y'all mother scratches. And
Mhm.
now, how can you listen to any of that and tell me? You cannot listen to any of that and tell me that is not something that we should be putting on the checklist for
Thank you.
this 14th Amendment. So whoever's talking, what's his name, Jack Smith, is that his name?
Jack Smith.
Yeah, baby,
John,
you
get on
need to-
that, okay?
You need
I'll
to
get on that.
make a little ringy ding and let him know. Y'all don't forget that, because that was
Guys, I'll
written
tell him. I'll make sure he knows.
because
Okay.
I'm on it.
You know what I'm
When it's
saying? So I'm
snowed,
with
Yeah.
you, Miss
guys.
Sealer girl.
I'm here, man. I got it.
Love y'all.
Thank you, Sheila.
Mwah. Be good,
We've
hon.
we've contributed nothing. Thank you for the call. Let me go to Susan in Pennsylvania. Susan, good evening and welcome. You're on Sirius XM.
Oh, thank you.
Hey,
My
darling.
concern, my hello. My concern is I know you're saying they're pushing for more electric cars, but gentlemen, in the state of Pennsylvania, the electric bills have been outrageous,
Really?
and there's no way that we're going to go with the electric cars.
Are the electric bills outrageous because of electric vehicles, or is it just the bills are high?
The bills are high, 14 cents a kilowatt hour, and we're trying to work with PP&L is one of them, and I don't know how the Pittsburgh area is doing, but it is really
And what is a gallon of what's a gallon of gasoline cost in the area right now?
I think lately it was 389 was one of the.
Do you know where I'm going with this? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
I do.
I mean, I think that, gas prices have been very high for a while. We've heard complaints about them. I think that you have raised very valid concerns. A lot of people are not going to want to have a larger electric bill. At the same time, a lot of people don't like paying for gasoline and subsidizing fossil fuel industry in this way of life that's killing our planet. I also think that this president is doing a lot of work to try to have charging stations where people won't be charged for plugging in their electric vehicles. And quite honestly, Susan, I think regardless of cost, I think this is the way the culture is going. I think we are just very, very, very slowly getting away from this poisonous fossil fuel culture we've all been raised in to something that is cleaner. And it's going to be messy and it's going to be bumpy, but I don't think electric vehicles are going to become less popular.
I did a little back of the napkin math, John.
Yes, Chris.
And,
I'm
Susan,
with you
it would
guys
it would
on
cost you if you had an electric car that needed a 300-mile range, that would cost you
Mhm.
between $10 and $14 to charge that battery for that whole 300 miles. So that's like half the cost of like filling up a gas tank for that. So even at current prices, I still think that that's.
But I
pretty
think
good.
you're right, Susan. People will be seeing a bigger electric bill, but they'll be seeing a much smaller gas bill because they won't be buying gasoline.
Well, and I hope you gentlemen are right. You sound like you know you're more informed, but
No, we're all
I'm
actually
not-
we are drunk imposters. To tell you the truth, we are just rank frauds. But I mean,
How
it sounded
dare
good.
you, sir?
you sound convincing though.
Well, thank you. That's my job as a charming
Thank
sociopath.
you.
But I
Hey,
think
the
you
other comment too, Susan Rice has left the Biden administration.
she has.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
I actually wanted her to run for the vice presidency initially. And
Yeah.
she's not with the administration is really a
I
bummer.
gotta be honest, man. You know why I first began liking Susan Rice? It was her accent. But the second reason I began liking Susan Rice was that the most evil people in government and media all hated her. And it really made me lean in. And people forget when they began exploiting Benghazi for crass political gain without actually caring about the men who died, they went after Susan Rice before they went after Barack Obama. And when that failed, they went after Obama. When that failed, they went after Hillary Clinton. But she's the director of, Keith White House Domestic Policy Council, and she is stepping down for her post. And they think that maybe Neera Tanden could get the gig, who was denied a government job a year ago. So, yeah, I don't know what Susan Rice is doing, but where she's going to go. But I find her to be a very, very strong and tough figure. And I'd love to see her run for statewide office, like Senate somewhere. I think she could do a really good campaign.
Well, I'm glad you feel the same way. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, she's got baggage, but she's tough. And I don't think the baggage is earned. It's just things people put on her. Thank you so much. Any
All
thoughts?
right, I'm just
Keith?
gonna say it.
Well,
Uh-oh.
That clearly was Susan Rice on the phone.
No, but I have a crush on Susan Rice's accent. I really
That
do.
clearly
And
was Susan Rice. And she's like, "Oh, did you hear about this Susan Rice person? Boy, you're sure gonna miss her, right,
Oh,
folks?"
yeah.
right?
She's just a smart, accomplished black woman who scares mediocre white men. I just love her.
There's a lot of those women, black women that scare the mediocre white men, and
Yeah, I work with one of them.
and all right, see, all right, Miss Thea, hey, but it's funny though, because when you hear how she's leaving this job and it's kind of become this weird thing, and it's sort of like, well, within this administration, there's one thing that we can say that we have seen that was completely different from the last one. A lot of people are still they still have their jobs.
Yeah,
There's people
you're right.
that, that Jen Psaki left and has gone on to something even more fabulous, but Jen Psaki probably would have held out, but the more fabulous probably pays more money and gives her less stress.
You're right.
And
The
so,
turnover is nothing near what Trump's was. Nothing like
at
Trump's.
all. And none of it's been for criminal reasons. Let's go
That's
back and look
true,
at
too.
that. So again, I sad that she's leaving. If that's the case, if there's something going on personally for her, or does she have like some other new professional option that she may be taking?
This is what happens in administrations. People come in for the first year or the first 2 years, and then they've done. I mean, Ron Klain left. Like I would have thought he would have stayed for the whole first term. So that's just, they got through the midterms, and now they're out.
Yet Louis DeJoy still has a job.
Well, I don't think Biden can fire him that easily. Thomas in New Jersey, welcome. Thank you for being so patient on hold.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
John, hi.
Hello. Good to have
John.
you. Yes, sir. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Great.
So I was,
right on.
I was thinking about the situation up there in Montana.
Tell me.
With the transsexual in
yes, transgender. Yeah.
And I got no problems at all, but with transsexuals. But I was thinking there's got to be some people there in Montana who voted but didn't exactly know that they voted for a transsexual. Now we got a Senate race coming up there with John Tester, a very important seat, and I was just thinking that strategically, maybe making noise at this time, maybe not the best idea.
Right.
I'm going to have to. I want to push back just. I want to push back just a little bit.
I have to as well, because her name is Zoe Zephyr. I mean, they knew they were voting for an interesting person with the name. But go ahead, Keith.
Exactly. I was just going to say, it's sort of like you cannot say that anybody was duped through this process, because for the first, it seems to me, and I mean, hearing them calling her trans or calling them trans already means that somebody knew something before anything started. So when I saw what the person looked like, I was like, well, you can't tell me that you didn't look at that person and was wondering or questioning exactly who you were voting for. And at the same time, how many debates do people have to go through in these little Montana towns at all? Do they have at least one debate where somebody publicly shows up and says, well, I'm not really sure about that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you going to tell me that throughout that whole electoral process, nobody asked that question? So I have to push back on they didn't know. Now, what I will say is that clearly they knew something now, because all of a sudden they were censoring them and keeping them out. So they figured it out very quickly, and what they figured out to do is they decided to bum rush this person to suppress their voice.
I mean, completely, and it's going to backfire.
And it's going to backfire.
It's. I won't compare it directly to what we saw in Tennessee, but it's going to be the same effect. They're going to make this young Democratic legislator a media superstar. It's going to backfire on them so badly. Go ahead, Thomas.
So I hope it does.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it's just mean. It makes them look mean. It makes them look bigoted. And again, I don't want people to be mean to our transgender friends, but the more mean they are, young people watch this, and young people this next generation is not going to be terrified of transgender people like Gen X and the boomers were.
But the point I'm trying to make though with that is that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about in her district. I'm talking about Democrats statewide in Montana, where they may not have known. And now when we have a Senate race coming up with John Tester, they might, because there are people who are freaked out by that. I'm not.
Sure.
But,
sure. I mean, listen, but again, if you had told me that a Democrat got elected in Montana, I'd be shocked.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Republicans are gunning for Tester so hard that this is they don't need this issue. Like
it's not going to help defeat Tester.
The fact that he's a Democrat even at all is like their guns blazing for him. And I would just say that Zoe Zephyr is a openly transgender person, proudly transgender. So
that's right.
It never came into it was never a question. It was never a shell game for the voters of Montana.
Yeah.
And again, not allowing them to do the job that they were elected to do by the people that are part of that state, to me, that's somewhere where the attorney general needs to step in somewhere, because you are
Well,
now
she's still allowed to do the job. They were smarter than Tennessee. She can still do the
Right.
job. She's just got to do all of her votes remotely. They're not letting her
Right.
into the actual Capitol. It's so
And
shitty and
what
punitive
and what kind of shit is that?
petty. Yeah, it's petty.
because
You know,
because they
and again,
because they
this, and
want
this
to.
is white.
Go ahead,
This
Chris.
is white men. I just want to say these are just
yeah.
these are some crotchety
Wait,
ass
white men in Montana? Are you sure?
Come
You know,
on.
and it's like, so you can't say that it's not homophobia. You can't say that it's not any of
Totally,
these things.
Totally.
You know, and it just like I said, it like I was saying this last week. It's like I'm just so tired of having to keep having this conversation because we have to keep being rational. This is the
I
point
know.
now where it's like this is where we go into the Montana State House, line up all these people, and do a Three Stooges slap all the way the fuck across that room to these people to get them to understand. Followed by the Indiana Jones burn them with the stake like short round to help cut this fever, because it's like because there's nothing else. There's nothing
hear
else
you.
because they're not listening to anything else. And they don't want to be budged away from their things. And they don't want to be told the reality is that you can do whatever you want to do in the world that you're living in because that is your world. But your world does not include the rest of us. So if you want to go and bang your farm animals and you want to go bang your nieces and nephews because you have no boundary issues, then go back and do that on your own time.
No,
But
I'm still a fan of the consenting adult model. I'm still there, but I get what you're saying.
So am I.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like at this point, if the choice is that we have to keep fighting with these people to try to get them to understand that, first of all, what they're doing is all effed up and weird. And then that the fact that you want to do that and then still try to tell other people and how to legislate other people's lives, that's just not going to fucking work. That ain't going to work. And
Thomas, I got to hit a break, but
Thomas,
I thank you very much for the call. Keith, can you stay with us till the top of the hour?
Right here, baby.
We got to hit a break or else the morality police come right in. Back in a couple of minutes. This is Sirius XM Progress. Don't go away.
You're listening to Tell Me Everything on Sirius XM Progress 127. Follow along on Twitter at John Fugelsang.
We played a Rolling Stones song earlier for Melania's birthday. Hey, Keith Price, how does our Evil Army of the Night follow you and keep up with all your doings?
They can find me at Comedy Daddy on the Twitter and KeithPriceComic.com for everything else.
Richie in L.A., you're our last caller of the night. What's up?
Richie!
Wow. Hey, Keith. Hey, John. Hey, Chris. No, I think this is a great show of sensitivity by the Montana legislature because they're showing they can be much more butthurt than a trans woman.
Oh, quick. Chase that one away. Follow it up.
Ooh.
Follow it up? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of trans, I don't understand. Bill Mulvaney is the perfect representative for Bud Light. If you believe someone can transition from one gender to the other, you believe that Bud Light can transition into being a real beer.
There we go. You just pulled
one.
yourself from the abyss. Very well done. Very well
How
done.
funny.
Yeah,
I
Bud
love
Light
it, though.
identifies as a beer. Very, very good.
It's the funniest thing that people lose their minds.
Am I still on? No.
Yes, you're still on. Everyone tip your waitresses before Richie's set is over. Give me one more, Richie.
Try the fish.
You know what? The thing about Tucker Carlson, now all the liberals are speaking German. Everyone's saying Schadenfreude.
He saved the best one for last. He really did.
That was good.
Anything else? That's okay.
This is when you should walk,
I mean,
Richie.
he could walk away right now and hold his head high and be smug. He wouldn't be smug about it. He could do it, though.
Go out on top, Richie.
Go ahead, Richie.
Nobody's talking about Joe Biden recovering from the aneurysm in 1988.
Okay.
No, there's no joke there. I said everyone's talking about his health. People don't talk about how remarkable his health really is.
I got to praise you, Richie. It takes a lot of balls to close with a setup. Thank you very much for calling us tonight. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate it. Thanks to all of our guests, Bob Seska, David Rothkopf. Thanks to the great Keith Price, the great Thea Harper, and of course, we had Smokey Robinson earlier today, Keith. We just taped that one, too. Keep it tuned to Progress all day long. Happy birthday, Melania Trump. I hope you get a second facial expression as a gift. We'll see you tomorrow.